What if the thing you've been fighting against is actually the thing that's trying to free you? Sit with that for a second, because I want to talk today about something that gets misunderstood more than almost anything else on the healing journey. Something that sounds simple on the surface, but in practice can feel like one of the hardest things you'll ever do: acceptance. And not the watered down, pretend everything is fine version, not the just let it go advice that people throw around like it costs them nothing. I mean the real kind, the kind that asks you to look at your life, at your pain, your circumstances, your reality, and stop fighting what's already true. I know that might sound scary and maybe even impossible right now. And if it does, I need you to keep listening because I used to feel the exact same way. And today, I'm going to share two stories from my own life that changed the way I understand acceptance completely. And by the end of this episode, my hope is that you walk away with something that you can actually use, not just something that sounds good, because you deserve more than inspiration. You deserve transformation. Welcome to Jotindi, Journey to the Inner Divine, a sacred space for healing energy, emotional release, and soulful transformation. If you're ready to live with joy, ease, and purpose, you're in the right place. I want to start by getting personal with you. When I was living in LA, I was in an abusive relationship. And for a long time, I was completely stuck. And not because of the situation itself, but because of what was happening in my mind. I was going back and forth constantly between two thoughts. Nobody who loves someone could treat them this way. And then maybe he just experiences love differently. Maybe he really does care about me, and this is all he knows. I spent months, so many months, trying to figure out whether he was hurting me on purpose or whether his behavior was just a product of his own pain, his own childhood, his own wounds. I was trying to solve a puzzle that was never going to give me the answer I was looking for. And what I wasn't doing, what I couldn't do yet, was accept the reality of the situation. Because here's what acceptance finally showed me: it didn't matter. It didn't matter whether he believed he loved me. It didn't matter whether he was intentionally cruel or just deeply broken. What mattered, the only thing that mattered, was that I was not happy. I was not safe, and I needed to leave. The moment that I stopped trying to figure out why and started accepting what was, that was the moment that everything changed. Acceptance didn't defeat me. It didn't mean that I was okay with what happened. It became the thing that finally set me free. The moment that I accepted the truth of the situation and let it really land, something shifted. Acceptance didn't paralyze me, it freed me. It became the thing that gave me the clarity and the strength to finally walk away. And that's what acceptance can do. It can be the door to your next move. Because it wasn't until I accepted that I was able to finally take action and get away and start my life over. And I do want to clear something up before we go any further, because I think this misconception is exactly what keeps so many of us stuck. Acceptance does not mean that you stop trying to change things. It doesn't mean that you lie down and go quietly and let life happen to you. That's not acceptance. That's defeat. And they're not the same thing. Acceptance means that you stop arguing with what is already true. It means that you look at your reality clearly, honestly, without the fog of denial or the exhaustion of resistance. And you say, this is where I am. Not, this is where I'll always be, just, this is where I am right now. You see, I spent my whole life believing that acceptance meant giving up. Accepting my current circumstances meant giving up on my dreams of building a better life. Acceptance of my flaws meant that I wasn't able to grow as a person. I had to stay the same. I thought that accepting my past meant that I was doomed to allow it to have a hold on me forever. So I resisted. What I didn't realize was that acceptance isn't resignation. You don't have to accept a bleak future if you choose to accept your current circumstances. And you don't have to give up on trying to make things better either. What most people don't understand about acceptance is that it's not passive. It's not giving up. It's not settling. It's actually the gateway to everything that people are trying to reach: peace, clarity, alignment, healing, even manifestation. Without it, you're pushing against the current. But with it, you start to move with the flow of your life. Only now you're able to direct where you go. You can take a little stream to the left, or you can stay in the big river. Only now you can see the rocks and the tree branches coming and move out of the way instead of continuously being blindsided as you try to paddle upstream. So let's dive deeper into the benefits of acceptance. What can it do for you? Because that's why we're all here, right? To learn things that are actually going to change our lives. So I'm going to give you 5 ways that acceptance helps move you forward. First, acceptance dissolves your inner conflict and restores your energy. When someone is constantly fighting themselves, how they feel or what they've done or where they are, like I was doing when I was in that relationship, they're leaking energy everywhere. Acceptance brings that energy back home. You're reclaiming your personal vitality, your focus, and your emotional strength by calling your energy back. Acceptance helps you find inner peace. Acceptance doesn't mean I like this. It means I'm no longer at war with reality. And the moment that war ends, people feel relief. And not because anything's changed yet, but because they stopped resisting what is. That's where healing finally has a space to begin. Second, acceptance builds emotional safety within yourself. A lot of people are unconsciously afraid of their own emotions. They think things like, if I let myself feel this, I'm going to spiral out of control. But acceptance says, I can be with myself in this moment. And that creates self trust. When you know you won't abandon yourself in your hardest moments, your nervous system starts to soften. And that's where deeper healing becomes possible. Third, acceptance breaks the cycle of shame. Shame thrives on rejection, especially self rejection. The more someone thinks, I shouldn't feel this or I shouldn't be like this, the deeper they get stuck. And acceptance interrupts that loop. It says, even this version of me is allowed to exist. And many times, that's the exact moment where people stop spiraling and start shifting, not through force, but through compassion. Fourth, acceptance reconnects you to your intuition. When you're resisting reality, you're in your mind trying to control or fix or escape. But intuition doesn't speak through control, it speaks through presence. Acceptance grounds you in the present moment. You say, this is where I am right now. And from that place, clarity comes in, guidance comes in, because you're no longer arguing with what's happening. You're listening. You become receptive. And fifth, acceptance allows true transformation. A lot of people try to change from a place of, I need to fix myself. I know I did. I did that for years. And that energy carries pressure, urgency, and all too often, self rejection. But real transformation happens when the change is rooted in acceptance. I see myself clearly and I'm choosing something different. That's aligned change. That's sustainable change because it's not built on escaping yourself, it's built on honoring yourself. And if we approach this all from a spiritual perspective, a lack of acceptance is resistance. And resistance maintains the illusion of separation from the universe and denial of being one with the divine. Resistance creates friction. And like we talked about many times before, we are all putting out a vibrational frequency through our thoughts and our feelings. When we resist, we create a frequency that is a mismatch for our needs and our desires. When we release, when we accept, when we begin to flow, we start to align our energy with the things that we're trying to call in, and we become a vibrational match. And that's when our deepest desires manifest. And there's actually a neurological reason why acceptance feels so relieving. When we resist what's happening, your brain perceives a lack of control and it activates a stress response. But when we shift into acceptance, the body begins to calm. It's like we're signaling to ourselves, I'm safe enough to be here. So acceptance isn't just a mindset, it's something that your nervous system deeply responds to. And so I want to ask you something, and I want you to really sit with it. Can you identify one area of your life where you have been white knuckling an outcome. I mean, you've been trying so hard to push through despite everything. And don't rush past this. I want you to really think about it because this is important and this has the power to transform things for you. While you think about that, I want to share my answer. And I think it's important that you know this isn't just a theory for me. I am currently navigating an autoimmune disease. And if I'm being real, I've been fighting that diagnosis in a way that has cost me so much peace. I'm fighting the limitations, fighting the uncertainty, fighting the possibility that some of the hopes and the plans that I've had for my future might need to look different now. And that fight, that resistance, it hasn't changed a single thing about my diagnosis. It's only made the weight of it feel heavier. Acceptance here doesn't mean that I'm giving up on healing. It doesn't mean that I'm not pursuing every option available to me. It means that I need to choose to stop draining my energy on a war with reality. And I need to start redirecting that energy towards what I can do and what I can feel and who I can become. Because one thing I have learned is acceptance is not the end of your story. It's often the very first page of a new one. But I can certainly relate to feeling skeptical about that. Which brings me to the work. I have shared two very different stories with you today, and I did that intentionally because acceptance doesn't always show up the same way twice. The first type is acceptance as a catalyst. This is the kind that cracks something open in you. You finally see your situation for what it truly is. You stop negotiating with the reality that was never serving you, and that clarity becomes the fuel for change. It gets the ball rolling, it moves you. And when you look back on it, you realize that moment of acceptance, as painful as it was actually the beginning of one of the most beautiful transformations of your life. But then there's the second type. And honestly, this one is harder. Acceptance as a daily practice. And this isn't a one time decision. There's no single moment where it clicks and you're done. This is the kind of acceptance that asks something of you every single morning when you wake up. My autoimmune disease has become my teacher in this. Some days I wake up and I'm at peace with it. Other days, the grief of what I've had to release, the plans, the expectations, the version of my future that I had imagined comes back fresh. And on those days, I have to try to choose acceptance all over again. But that's not weakness. That's the work. And that's what I want you to hear. If you're in a season of daily practice acceptance right now, you're not behind. You're not failing. Healing is not linear, and neither is this. The fact that you have to keep choosing it doesn't mean that it's not working. It means that you're doing something really, really brave. So, how do we actually do this? How do we keep coming back to acceptance when everything wants to resist? These are the three things that I come back to. First, there's grounding, meditation, and breathing exercises. Any short daily practice that reminds you that you're in the here and now, that this moment is all that we're guaranteed, and that this moment right now is all that exists, and we can choose how we feel in this moment. Second, there's journaling, having a dialogue with yourself, exploring your true feelings, asking yourself hard questions like, what am I afraid will happen if I let this go? And third, sometimes you just have to have a mantra. Get it stuck in your head. Choose something believable and positive, like, I release the need to control what was never mine to carry. And so here's what I want to leave you with today. Acceptance is not surrender. It's not weakness. It's not giving up on yourself or your healing or the future that you're still allowed to want. Accepting is one of the most courageous spiritual acts there is. It takes strength to look at your reality without flinching. It takes faith to trust that peace is still available even when the circumstances haven't changed. And it takes grace, so much grace, to keep choosing it on the days when it doesn't come easily. So, whether you're in a season where acceptance is about to set something in motion for you, or you're in the daily practice of it, showing up again and again for something that is hard and ongoing and real, I want you to know you're not alone in that. Peace is not waiting for your life to be perfect. It's not on the other side of the outcome that you've been praying for. It's available to you right now in the releasing. And you don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to be willing to loosen your grip, even just a little, and trust that the universe will meet you there. And if you need more guidance, I have created a special 5-day live event called The Oracle Within, a 5-day journey of reconnecting and remembering. During these 5 days, we're going to learn how to see and hear and feel the messages that the universe is sending us. We're going to learn how to tap into our higher wisdom and connect with the infinite. I invite you to join the waitlist at mariahaurora.com/oracle to be notified when the next event starts. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. Thank you for showing up for yourself, because that's exactly what you did by pressing play. And of course, don't forget, there is no path to happiness. Happiness is the path.